We have thousands of people who go missing every year, just here in the United States, and there's no discrimination on the missing. They are young, old, black, white, male or female, even children. It's time to stop. Here at Coles is still missing, and they've not found any new clues. It's women who are pregnant, it's women who have jobs, and it's women who have not seen even fetal abductions. Have you seen me? Welcome to my channel, everyone. Thank you so much for caring.
Hello guys, welcome to Chasing the Murder Talking News today, and please subscribe, hit that notification bell if you'd like notifications whenever we have new information coming up. And I want to thank you guys for all that you do, the comments, the support, the likes on the videos. I appreciate that, and especially the shares. We've had a very exciting week pertaining to the case of so many deaths, like Tyler Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell. And we're finding out that Lori and Chad have finally been indicted. We have murder charges pending. We're waiting today for the arraignment, whether they're going to plead guilty or not. And we are finally moving forward. So Rob Wood and his team are working hard as suspected. I mean, they've really been dealing with a lot with that defense team for Lori and Chad. They've really put a lot of knots in the rope, making it difficult for them to move forward in this case. But finally, Tammy Douglas, I want to call her Tammy Douglas. She is not a Daybell anymore. She doesn't deserve that name. And I'm meaning she doesn't deserve to be called a Daybell and attached to such a horrific monster. Tammy Douglas, her parents must be feeling a bitter relief today. It must also be very confusing for them to realize that their son-in-law, the person that they trusted their whole entire lives, is suspected of having a part to play in the reality of her no longer being on this earth. And Justin Lum, one of my favorite reporters. I like Justin Lum, and I try to follow him and push him as much as I can. This young guy really has heart in his reporting. Shared a statement from the Douglas family. So I want to share that too. Also, don't forget to go check out Justin Lum's Facebook page. This is what the parents of Tammy Tammy Douglas had to say. The parents and siblings of our dearly beloved Tammy want to make a brief statement in the light of today's news. And they're talking about yesterday, May 25th of 2021. First, we'd like to expand our continued love and heartfelt sympathy for the families of Tylee and JJ. Words cannot adequately express the depths of the loss and pain that they are suffering. But we hope that they know that they are not alone, and we grieve and hold a place in our hearts with them all this time. In the light of the new information and forward movement in this judicial process, we ask for consideration of our family's right to privacy and continue grieving as we process this. We'd especially ask this consideration be extended to our dearest Tammy's children and grandchildren. We want their lives to retain as much peace, normalcy, and remembrance of their mother, grandmother as possible. No one knows how to handle this perfectly. We ask that we all be given space to continue to honor and grieve our loved one the best we can. We'd like to thank the tireless efforts of the law enforcement, the FBI, and all those who have continued to seek out the answers during this investigation surrounding Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. let's not forget Charles. We appreciate their pursuit of justice and ultimately some measure of peace for those of us left in the wake of our loss. Thank you to all those family, friends, and supporters near and far who have continuously reached out to us. We thank those who've shown interest in honoring Tammy's legacy with us through the beginning efforts with the Tammy Douglas Daybell Foundation. We pray that the truth will prevail and that all of us left behind will find a way to pick up the pieces and somehow come out of this crucible together from Tammy's parents and siblings. So the Douglas family holding themselves together in honor. So they're really holding themselves together, trying not to, they're not showing any anger or ill will towards anybody. They have faith in the law and that it will prevail and bring justice to everyone involved. They're doing better than I am, because there's days that I get, and you can hear it in my videos, I get tremendously upset with the fact we shouldn't even have gone this far. If only they had listened earlier when Charles was reaching out to anyone he could for help, but we're past that. There's nothing you can do about it, so they're setting a great example by moving forward. All we can do is try to keep supporting and pushing for justice, and each day that goes by, we're seeing a little bit more hope. And yesterday was definitely the light of the, in this huge, long, dark tunnel. Okay, so I went out front so there'd be less background noise, guys. And as you know, I have nowhere to kind of hide to tape these. So why is it we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So finally, an indictment of the grand jury. So first, let's go over a few things that we learned in this case. Now, reading these documents kind of give me an idea that they're still not cleared up the belief system that well yet, which you can't blame them because it's very vast. And trying to link the place where all this is coming from is hard, because I'm doing that. And I will continue to work on that. Now, my mic's down right now because my phone's dead. So anyways, let's go ahead and play the Zoom appearance of Chad Daybell today.
Mr. Pryor, Mr. Daybell, can I get you to turn on your video, please? We'll go on the record here in Fremont County. Good morning to everybody. It is May 26, 2021. Case number CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Present here on the Zoom call, I have Mr. Daybell appearing with his counsel, Mr. Pryor. I have Mr. Wood, who represents the state. Also Ms. Blake, who's here representing the state. I have a court reporter and someone from the Idaho Supreme Court for technical issues. This is the date and time for an initial appearance. Mr. Daybell, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear
I
me?
need you to speak a little bit louder, Mr. Daybell.
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Daybell, the purpose of today's initial appearance is to go through your rights, to talk about the date for future hearings, to talk about counsel, and a few other things. Mr. Daybell, would you review a copy of the notification of rights form that was sent down to the jail prior to this hearing today?
Yes,
Do you understand your legal rights here today?
I do.
Mr. Pryor, did you go through that notification of rights form with your client?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Daybell, did you receive a copy of the indictment that was filed on May 25th, 2021? A warrant that was filed on that same date?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a chance to review that with your counsel, Mr. Pryor?
He did, Judge, and we have no questions at this time.
Mr. Pryor, it's my understanding from a review of the notification of rights that your client is waiving a formal reading of the indictment. If it's okay with you, I'll just go through each charge and the maximum penalties. I'm not going to go through the allegation contained in the charge.
That's appropriate, Your Honor.
Ms. Blake or Mr. Wood, any objection to that?
No, Your Honor, I think that's appropriate.
No objection.
Right. Mr. Daybell, the indictment, like I said, is case number CR 2221-1623. It was filed on May 25th, 2021. In the indictment, there are 9 counts. I'm going to go through the counts that are relevant to your case. The first count is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, as well as grand theft by deception. That count is punishable to the same extent as the underlying crime on the conspiracy. On the first part of that count, murder in the first degree, it's punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. It carries up to a $50,000 fine or both. It also carries with it up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. With regards to the second part of count 1, conspiracy to commit grand theft by deception, that portion of the charge carries up to 14 years in prison, up to a $5,000 fine, or both. Count 1 is an allegation of, like I said, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft. The murder relates to the victim and the death of TR, a minor. Count 2 is a charge of first-degree murder. It carries with it a maximum penalty punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. It carries up to a $50,000 fine and up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. It relates to the death of the minor child, TR. Count 3 is a charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. That charge carries with it the same maximum penalty as count 1. In other words, it's punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine, and or up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. The second portion of that charge is conspiracy to commit grand theft by deception. That portion of the charge carries up to 14 years in the state penitentiary, up to a $5,000 fine, or both. That count relates to the death of the minor child, JV. Count 4 is a charge of first-degree murder. That charge is punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine, plus $5,000 fine and restitution. That count relates to the death of JV, a minor. Count 5 is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That charge carries with it the potential penalty of death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine, plus $5,000 fine and restitution. That charge relates to the death of Tamara Daybell. Count 6 is a charge of first-degree murder. That charge carries with it punishment by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. It carries up to a $50,000 fine and a $5,000 fine and restitution. The next count related to your case is count 8. It's an allegation of insurance fraud. Insurance fraud, as it is charged, carries up to 15 years in the state penitentiary, a fine of up to $15,000 plus restitution. Count 9 is the last count. It is also a charge of insurance fraud. It carries up to 15 years in the state penitentiary, a fine of up to $15,000 or both plus restitution. Mr. Daybell, the maximum penalties of all of those counts carry up to, they could all run consecutively, one after the other, or they could run concurrently. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Pryor, have you had a chance to explain that to your client?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
We'll proceed then. Very well. Mr. Daybell, you're appearing here today with Mr. Pryor. Do you wish to represent yourself? Do you wish to hire an attorney, Mr. Pryor, or would you like to seek application of a public defender?
Judge, Mr. Daybell has retained my office to continue representing him in this matter, and that's the way I anticipate going forward, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Daybell, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, the next item of business is to set the arraignment. That arraignment will be in front of the district court judge. As of right now, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Wood, Ms. Blake, the court has available June the 9th in the morning. That's the date we will set that arraignment for. It's yet to be determined if that's going to be in person or via Zoom. That will be worked out at a later time and date. Also, the exact time of that arraignment on June 9th will be set by the court, and we'll send out final notice of that, but it will be in the morning on June the 9th. Does that work for everybody?
That will work for the state, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
We'll plan on that. Right now, the warrant has set forth no bail. Mr. Pryor, does that need to be addressed here today?
No, Judge.
Is there anything else we need to take up here today at this initial appearance, Mr. Wood or Ms. Blake?
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Pryor, anything else from the defense we need to bring up here today at this initial appearance?
Nothing further, Your Honor. May we be excused?
You may. Thanks, everybody, for appearing. We will be adjourned on this matter.
Okay, and so we'll go into part 2 shortly. So I'll go ahead and upload this now. But as you can see, Chad Daybell was sitting there. I think that I could see a little bit more fear in Chad Daybell than what we've seen at the beginning, especially during his preliminary hearing on the first charges that he was given. In that courtroom, we've seen him be quite open with smiles and with a playful attitude. He kind of felt like things weren't that bad, but now we're facing murder charges. This is totally different, and there's 9 counts. Just, oh my gosh, 9 counts. Can you imagine what he must be thinking right now? So the only thing we can think, what's the next step for Chad Daybell? Because these are some very, very serious charges. Is he going to choose to go ahead and bite, off what he has to face? Or is he going to continue, or is there a chance that he might actually start pointing fingers towards other people, such as Lori Vallow or Melanie Gibb? I can tell you right now, knowing how Lori Vallow works, Lori Vallow Daybell, she's probably preparing to set up some kind of finger pointing. She is just that type of person. She does not take, she's not the type to take the downfall for anyone. She's going to always blame someone else. That is the way she is. So we can probably expect to see that shortly. So I think it's going to just only get more interesting from here to see which direction she's going to go. And as well as Chad. I mean, is he going to follow her lead, or is he going to try to wiggle his way out of this trouble he's in? So this is a lot of trouble, guys. This is no longer a picnic at a park. we're talking death penalty if Rob Wood actually wants to pursue that. Now, we do have an idea that he's going to kind of start to look out for Lori Vallow more than he is Chad Daybell. So Chad Daybell needs to know that if he's going to if he's worried about his future and where he's going, he better start looking out for himself and pull away from Lori Vallow. Like I said, we've already had hints from Rob Wood earlier on, actually last year, that there was conversations with Lori Vallow's sister saying that he was going to be looking more towards Chad Daybell to place the blame. So I do not know how to legally use the terms that I'm probably trying to use here. I am not a legal expert at all, but that is basically the foundation, is find the person they're going to point the finger at and go after them. Alrighty, guys. I'll see you in part 2.